Welcome everybody to this, what month are we in? I can't even remember, July. This July webinar that we are doing all about email marketing being unleashed. And I'm super excited to have you guys here. But before we get started, I just want to make sure that we are live streaming, that you can hear us on LinkedIn and YouTube because we're streaming to 2 channels. If you're joining us on LinkedIn, please can you head over to the YouTube channel if you want to ask questions. If you just want to sit quietly and listen to both myself and my guest David talking about email marketing and where we think it's headed and also how to harness it, then you can hang on the LinkedIn channel. But if you want to be joining us on YouTube and asking us questions, then head over to the Affiverse YouTube channel and come and join us there. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. Just if this is the first time that you're joining us on a live stream webinar, we do it once a month. We have fantastic guests that join us to talk about lots of different parts of the industry. We're going to be about 45 minutes, and there are some freebies for you at the end, so it always pays to stay till the very end so you can get the free stuff. And you are welcome to ask us questions because both myself and David are very well versed at answering Q&As, so please do interact with us if you want to. Set your phones on silent. Let's get this session going, and if you can hear me and see me, can you give us a thumbs up on the YouTube channel, please? So if you're here with us live, give me a thumbs up, say hello, let us know that you can hear us and that we are live streaming. It seems like everything is fine, but you never know because we're doing this live. So hopefully you can hear us and see us. If anything changes or your live stream freezes, just refresh your browser, whatever browser you're on, and you'll come straight back into the webinar with us. We'll also have a replay, so if you've registered to come and join us today, don't worry, because if you have to skip off or go to a meeting or do the things that busy people do, we will be sending you the replay of the webinar and you will be able to get the freebies as well. So without getting started, welcome to this webinar for affiliate managers who want to fuel their affiliate program growth and want to understand how to harness email marketing and fuel revenue generation. Now that was a bit of a mouthful, but really what we're talking about today is email marketing and its resurgence, especially after the news that we all woke up to yesterday, where Google said that they were doing a full U-turn on cookie deprecation and set the world alight again with a whiplash moment. And we're going to be talking about all of that as well a little bit later on. So if you want to grow your affiliate program, you want to find out how to leverage email marketing effectively to do that, you're in the right place with us today. So let's get going. Let's talk about it. If you're here with us, remember to head on over to YouTube to ask us questions. We'll be very, very happy to answer them and look at them in a little bit, but we've got a lot to cover with you guys today. And before we get started, we'd love to hear a little bit from you as well, because I know David, and I am going to introduce him in a minute. He's not just going to sit mute on the screen. But tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what industry you work in. Tell us what your struggles are with email marketing, because we're here to actually answer them and to give you a little bit of insight. And David has got years and years and years of experience, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself in just a moment. But if you're just joining us, remember to head on over to the YouTube channel. Ask any questions there. I will be looking for them on my phone and I will answer you guys if you are wanting to engage with us. Or if you just want to sit back and listen and learn and take a few takeaways with us today, that's also totally fine too. So let's get cracking. Hopefully you can see us and you can hear us. I'll tell you just a very little bit about who I am if you don't know me yet. My name is Leanne Johnston and I'm the founder of Affiverse. We're a performance marketing agency, but also a media company, and we have a really cool affiliate marketing podcast. So check it out on Apple iTunes and download it each week. I get to talk to the most amazing people in the industry from a cross-section of all parts of the performance marketing industry, David being one of these people. So I'm really grateful to have him here today. But without any further ado, and because he's been super patient for the first 5 minutes, I'm going to hand over to him to actually introduce himself and say a quick hello to you guys. And then we'll get on into the nitty-gritty. So David, over to you. Please welcome to this webinar and tell us a little bit about yourself and Finexa.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks for having me again. I thought you were going to say I've been perfectly patient for the first time ever then. That's what I thought you were going in there with, which does mean you know me very well. So yeah, who am I? So I'm CEO of Finexa here in the UK. I've been involved in the affiliate space since 2012. I worked out earlier. Started as what I think the young people today call a side hustle. But then in 2014, I joined and partnered with a founder of a group of companies that consisted of, a few different businesses, affiliate network, list management firm, and then a financial services lead gen company as well.
Yeah.
In my time, I've hired, trained, developed affiliate managers, performance marketers, software developers, compliance managers, helping hundreds of brands launch their affiliate programs, that kind of stuff. and yeah, just through it either through myself or using our tracking software. In terms of Finexa is an enterprise grade tracking platform. We launched in 2016 out of our HQ in Los Angeles and opened our UK office in 2017. The suite is responsible for delivering, I guess, true end-to-end tracking. That's a massive cliche, so that's the last time I'll say the term end-to-end, I promise. But we use it because it describes, really what we do, from tracking clicks, impressions, events, web leads, calls, email, SMS, which is what we're going to talk about today, remarketing, PBX dialing, suppression management, unsubscribe management, heat mapping, integrated automated accounting, all that kind of stuff. So that's essentially what we've built under our roof. It's essentially used by marketing teams to drive ROI for affiliate, partner, paid channels, that kind of stuff.
Now, I've actually seen the product and I was a little bit blown away by just how much it does do. So if you think about like car, normal engine, this is like a V8 engine almost, because it can literally track everything end to end and across multiple different channels. So it gives you a lot of data, a lot of insight. So if you guys want to check out a little bit more about Finexa, highly recommend you stay to the end, download the freebie guide on email marketing, and go check out what it can do for your businesses too. Right, this is not a common sales pitch. We are going to actually be teaching you about the power of email marketing. And I thought the best place to start is actually to talk a little bit about, where the industry currently is with email marketing, what the current problems have been, and why people, and I know we spoke about this before we actually got on this webinar, but why we've kind of dismissed email in the last couple of years and why it really is going to make a resurgence and why we need to figure out how to actually use it efficiently. So maybe give us the backstory, because I know you've got a long history seeped in email marketing and lead generation as well, which is really what this touches on. Tell us what the current problems are in email marketing and why people have kind of just dismissed it over the last couple of years.
Sure. I mean, there are some obvious problems, I think, that have been around for a long time that we'll touch upon. Deliverability being the main one. That's been an issue for many, and that's actually partly why many years ago I dismissed it myself, because I could never get it working. It was sort of a bit of a grey area, a little bit like some people how SEO works now. There's people that sort of call it a grey area, quite misunderstood how it actually works. But nowadays the sort of the metrics and you're able to understand actually how to get emails delivering these days. But things like spam filters, bounce rates, ISP blocks, those kinds of things, they've all become a little bit better documented, particularly around earlier this year, Google and Yahoo updates in February, whereby they actually sort of released an update to physically tell you exactly what you need to do to actually keep emails delivering to their services. So unsubscribe links, making sure that they're one click, making sure that they're actioned within 2 days, making sure your spam threshold is hitting a certain amount. So those sorts of things have been a constant. But what I would say is there's a little bit more understanding around it now. So actually you can get your teeth into solving it, and if you actually spend some time doing it, you can really get your emails delivering. And then in terms of what I would say new problems, I guess, probably data management is where I would narrow it down to. So I saw earlier today actually a stat that surprised me. By 2025, it's predicted there's going to be 4.6 billion email users around the world, and 376 billion emails sent per day. So it's a ridiculous number, and having a method of tracking that and making sure that you're not just another one of them, that really comes down to your effective data management, your effective targeting, of which we'll all go into this in more detail in a minute. But I think it's just understanding the scale of that and making sure that you're using that scale to your advantage. So use that data to make sure that you can analyze it, make sure that you're segmenting, make sure that you're cleaning your list and doing everything properly. But that's kind of, I guess, what I would narrow it down to in terms of deliverability and then the management of that data and the targeting.
I think also, like from my perspective, as we've seen the industry grow, like email marketing, when it first came out, everybody abused it. It just became like the one channel that everybody went after. And then we had other more cooler, sexy things happening, like, paid AdWords and social media platforms and messaging within those social media platforms. And it's actually a skill. Email marketing is actually a skill that's sort of been pushed to the wayside. The content writing has always been good, but the actual technical capabilities of using email to leverage and actually bring leads into your business has been forgotten. Or not forgotten, but just not focused on as much as all of the other new shiny bright things that have come. And I really am similar to you, having had a lot of experience in the industry and seen lots of different cycles, I really do believe that email marketing is still a very vital tool that is maybe misused and not used in the right context. And that's why people have just left it, because they just haven't harnessed the capabilities properly yet. And that's really what I wanted to bring you on today to talk a little bit more about. So we know what the current problems are. We know how to actually leverage those problems and look for tools and suppliers that can help us to get over that. But let's talk about what the main elements of a successful email campaign are, because a lot of people listening to this might have only ever done 1 or 2 email campaigns in their entire career. They might only be working with 1 or 2 email affiliates, and they don't actually know the nitty-gritty and all the skill sets that are required to actually make email effective. So maybe can you drill down into that bit now for the next segment and talk to us about what the main elements of a successful email campaign need to be.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my cheat sheet for this, I suppose, boils down to quite similar to my performance marketing cheat sheet. So I apologize to anyone else that's, watched the podcast that you and I did a little while back, because actually a lot of my points are quite similar to that. But really it's a similar logic, whereby first thing I'm ever doing is setting clear objectives and tracking metrics. So define what I'm trying to achieve, whether it's sales, website visits, impressions, signups to an event, whether it's transactional, helping a customer get further down the sales cycle. But those, what's the goal? Start there. If you're trying to start any further down the line, it's going to fail, because you're just not designing with the goal in mind. And on par with that, make sure that you've got the tracking in place to actually measure whether you're actually achieving that. So define the goal and make sure that you can track whether that's happening. And don't go any further until you have that in place. Secondly, audience. So ensuring you've captured the right data in the first place. So you mentioned earlier, Google have done their U-turn, but it also doesn't change the fact that first-party data is still going to be more important than ever. So making sure that you've got your audience-based data, who are your customers, build your personas, and what data do you have in place to evidence that, and how can you segment that data accordingly, whether that's your demographics, your behavior-based stuff, your purchase history, event-based engagements, dwell time, that kind of stuff. Will always improve the personalization that you can do further on, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, I'm sure, as well. And then once you've done that, build your relevant content. So go away and actually, based on your persona data, based on your behavior data, go and build the content that you think this person needs to see in order to actually take action. And if you're directing them somewhere else, so for example, if your call to action is go here, do this, ensure that the end destination is consistent with your own styling and branding. I've seen so many campaigns that have come up with the most beautiful email creatives, super targeted, so personalized, great click-through rate, but then they land them on a site or a funnel that just looks completely different terminology, completely different personalization, and the customer feels like they're in the Bermuda Triangle. All of a sudden they're lost and they don't know what they're doing. So make sure that you're actually thinking about the whole funnel, not just tunnel vision on this email creative.
Yeah, because I think that's an excellent point. Actually, I get confused when I get an email that's lovely and I want to click, and then I get to a web page that doesn't actually allow me to check out anyway. Yep. That actually annoys me.
Is an e-commerce email saying here's the shoes you were looking at, for example, here's the trainers you're looking at, Dave. Click here, we've got a sale on, and it takes me to a page about shorts. It's just the most basic level of setup to actually make that work properly and send you to the right page. It's just a real bugbear of mine.
The other thing as well that you mentioned there is about getting your customer persona right and understanding what messaging helps them, because I think a lot of people forget about the time of day of when to send emails. So I'll give you an example. The best email campaigns that I run in my business are actually on a Sunday, which beggars belief, because who the heck is thinking about work on a Sunday? But what we do is we actually target the Sunday email as a value email. There's no sales talk in it, and it's the highest opened email rate that we have, and I think we have something like a 57% open rate on an email, which is mad. But because it's constantly personalized and it's constantly relevant about something that's happened in that week, and it's a thought process that gets you started for the Monday, people really resonate with it. And I value our audience more than anything else, and I want to make sure that I actually give them content that's relevant and helpful and useful to them. So whilst all the technical aspects of the email campaign are important, it's also very, very important to understand why you're sending the email. Like, stop and ask yourself before you create this massive email campaign, what is the value? Is it authentic? And is the end user actually going to enjoy reading it, receiving it, having that offer experience, and not be sent to, a page that isn't about shorts or whatever it was that you were buying? So I think we get lost in the idea of creating a really great email marketing campaign because we think it's going to be amazing and everybody's going to read about what we want to sell them, but we forget about what's the end user's goal. Like, what is it that they actually want to receive? And sometimes taking a step back and looking at the campaign flow and figuring out, does that actually answer the problem? Because email is really about either soliciting an action or answering a problem and getting a response. And we forget that. We kind of do the push messaging thing. Oh, look at me, look at what we've got, look at what we want to sell, look at what we want you to buy. And we forget about solving the problem, in the same vein.
A really good piece of advice I had once when designing email campaigns was what would you say to this customer if they're in front of you? So if they're stood in front of you, you're not going to just ram sales talk down them, are you? You're not going to say, look at all these products. Do you want this one? Do you want this one? Do you want this one? No. You're going to tell a story. You're going to tell them about your business. You're going to relate it back to information that they already know about you, and you're going to personalize it to them. You're not just going to give them the same sales speech that you gave everyone else. So write your email content like that, and it'll do wonders for it, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we've kind of worked through the technical aspects of the email campaign and what you really need to be getting right. And I want to just flip this on the head as well before we move on. Guys, if you're listening to this isn't just about you to your consumer, it's also about you to your affiliate. And I do want to kind of drill down into that a little bit, because the most common questions that I get asked on our training programs and, at events and things is, how many emails do I send? How many is too many, and how frequently should they be done? So we're going to drill down into that a little bit. But first, let's get into the copy, because like David said, it's not about how you position what you're selling. It's what you're actually saying to sell it. You wouldn't actually send off an email with 100 products in and say, buy one of these, because the customer is just going to get lost. So how do you actually create compelling copy that can convert? Like, what do you actually need to do in order to craft compelling content? And have you got some tips for people that are listening to us now about like how long an email should be, what the hook should be, or what the format should be from all of the millions of emails that you've sent in your career, what actually works? Because I think that's why people are tuning in. They want the nitty gritty. So give us the goss.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing that I would say, I've actually written 3 points down here. I'm going to start with the last one. It's probably the most important one that I wrote down last, which was optimize for mobile, because 42% of email opens come from mobile devices, but 42.3% of users delete emails that aren't optimized for mobile, which I'm a numbers guy, so I'm sorry if people here aren't, but that's a perfect correlation. So use a software that allows you to preview all your creatives on multiple devices. So if you're not able to do that, stop, because you're going to alienate over a third of your database straight away. So that would be the first thing that I would say. But the second thing I'd say relates back to what I said a second ago around the personas. So ensure you know who your customers are. Ensure you're creating that first party data to allow you to segment them accordingly. So make sure you know enough about your customers to actually then do some personalization in the first place. If you haven't got that, then again, it's a bit of a problem. I've seen so many brands be scared to capture data because they think it's going to hurt their conversion. But when you think about how long you're hoping to communicate with someone, you want a lifetime value out of this customer, right? And you want ROI. You want them buying from you in 2 years' time. So you need to know as much about them as possible, which is that data and the segmentation off the back of it. And then you want to be splitting your creatives accordingly. So don't go sending a creative targeted at mothers to people who aren't mothers. It sounds really basic, but so many people don't. You'll know how many emails in your inbox that are just so irrelevant for you. 376 billion sent a day. I'd say probably 80% of them aren't targeted, and in which case you're just creating noise. So make sure that your creatives are targeted based on your segmentation, and A/B test. So when you're doing that, assume that you're going to be wrong with what you're creating. Create an alternative. Make sure it's a fair test. Only change one thing, change one image, change one subject line, change the header or the pre-header, that kind of thing. Make sure it's a fair test, and use a tool. Again, this isn't just a sales pitch about Nexa, but use a tool that then allows you to automate that. Don't hopefully you're going to have plenty of email creatives, plenty of email campaigns, and plenty of data coming in to be contacting. Make sure that you build it in a way whereby you've got a level of automation around your split testing and your A/B testing, so that you don't have to sit there and press refresh and monitor it all day, every day, because it's going to become the most stressful thing in the world otherwise.
So let's talk a little bit about that data segmentation. Like, people are scared to ask their customers for information because they don't want to be too intrusive, or they don't want to be a deterrent. But without that information, they can't actually give the customer or the affiliate a good user experience. So how would you manage that approach? If you were a new brand starting out building an affiliate program, or a new brand starting out selling a product online in your Shopify store, how would you manage that onboarding approach with your customers so they would sign up for the newsletter? Like what would be like the typical funnel that you would recommend goes out in order to ask that information without alienating?
Yeah, I would say use it as a drip method. So that's something I've seen really effective. Don't just think, oh, I need to know 50 things about this person, so I'm going to give them a 50 field form.
Yeah, because that's a deterrent. Yeah,
it's so annoying, right? So work from top down. What are the 3 things you want to know about them? Why are you here? How did you hear about us? And what are you interested in? That sort of basic level of data capture.
Okay.
Cool, great. Now that I've caught that, I'm going to launch a drip campaign. Another thing I've seen work really effectively with this as well is in that drip campaign, when you send that first welcome email, for example, whatever it might be, tell them what they can expect to hear from you. We're going to send you 1 newsletter, 2 product updates, and 2 discount codes a month. That's what you're going to get from us. So you're actually sort of signposting how much contact they can expect to get from you, which I've found really effective too, because something that I've often seen a lot of people get turned off by is customers think they're getting spam. They think they're getting a million emails from you, but actually, if you framed it up front as to what you're actually going to communicate with them, and you've then actually been able to show them that, for example, the value you're going to get is you're also going to get your discount codes, but you're going to get more discount codes than you are newsletters. And actually, the customers are going to go, okay, as much as I didn't read that newsletter, I'm still going to stick around because I'm going to get a discount code next month. So don't be scared to signpost along the way as well. But then use those drip campaigns to keep supplementing your data capture. So those 50 fields that I mentioned earlier that you want to find out, drip that through over the first sort of three months or so. Keeps the customers engaged as well. You're able to then monitor your open rates and your click-through rates from that level of capture as well. Helps you clean your database throughout that process too. And it makes sure that not everything's just a sales pitch. You're not always just trying to sell them something. You're just trying to find out more about them. And hopefully what that then teaches them along the way as well is, as they've shared more information with you, the content you've delivered them has become more personalized. You've got to make sure you do that. Otherwise, they're going to stop answering the questions.
Yeah, that's true. And is it good to like put that in just like 2 or 3 questions each go, or try and filter them into the bottom of other emails? Because sometimes we try and squash too much into one communication. Like I've seen that. I've had emails like that. Yeah. So is it better to kind of send a separate, tiny poll, for example, saying, tell us, what you're struggling with today? Yes, no, and get that captured into the database? Or is it better to actually frame it as a separate communication in that drip feed funnel?
I don't think there's a way that anyone could say one's right and one's wrong. I would say, I'm a performance-based guy. Like, test it and see what your customers are doing. If you've got the numbers that tell you one method is working better than the other, then great. But like again, I said, prepared to be wrong. What I will say is, if you're designing with mobile in mind, I think you'll be surprised at how few people will actually then try and squeeze as much content as they can into an email at that point. The emails whereby there's so much content in there have clearly just not been designed with mobile in mind, and certainly not with mobile structure in mind. So I would say mix it up. I would also say don't be scared to infiltrate some of that first-party data throughout further checkout processes. So if customers on average buy from you 3 times a year, that's 3 opportunities a year to capture some additional information from them. Make sure it's not the same information over and over again, though, because otherwise it's just becomes pointless. The customer needs to make sure that they feel like you're actually listening to them. Make sure it's supplemental information. But yeah, I would say think of your funnel and your checkout process all as one ecosystem. So if you capture that information via email, if your database is able to actually tell you, okay, this customer hasn't told me previously what their postcode is, or they haven't told me what their favorite holiday destination is, or something, whatever is important to your database, make sure that the questions are based on what you don't know about them.
And I love that, because, often we don't know a lot about the affiliates and the partners that we're working with in our programs as well. So, and we don't ask them these questions. We wait until we meet them at an event or something, and then have like a face-to-face conversation. But in the meantime, you could have captured all of this data, understood exactly what the affiliate's interested in, and only targeted them with offers, discount codes, or products that they really needed and wanted, and could actually convert from their own customer base, saving you time and saving them time, and everybody making more money. So it really does make sense to actually signpost and to get that segmentation done early on in the first 3 months of your relationship. What tools are hot right now for improving email outreach and engagement? So I know this is one that I wanted to kind of drill down with you on, because we definitely are looking at leveraging email a lot more in our business, because it is effective still, and it is a good communication channel that pretty much, billions of people are still using. So I certainly don't want to ignore it. But what are some of the hot tools that you've kind of seen that are really like leveling up the communications and the outreach that people are doing?
Yeah, so I guess AI in general, the big fancy buzzword that's flying around the industry right now, I get a little bit bored of it, if I'm honest. So I personally, with Finexa, you won't see us branding AI across all of our marketing, all of our features. But we ingest data from certain places that allow our users to improve their marketing campaigns. And some of those features are AI based. So there's one that I saw a couple of months back. It's called Seventh Sense. Relates back to something you mentioned earlier, actually, with regards to the best times to send emails. So what it does is it's using AI to choose ideal delivery times for your emails specific to each subscriber in your list. So if you think about how you typically would analyze that, you're typically analyzing it based on a list-based analysis. So of the 2.2 million people in my email, in my list, what's the best time to send to them? Well, that's great, but you're dehumanizing that when you do that, because there's 2.2 million different people in that list. So what the Seventh Sense technology will do is it'll analyze user-based behavior for each individual subscriber in that list. It does rely on volume of event-based data. So if you're someone that's got 20 subscribers, it's not really going to tell you very much. But the point is that it's to be done at scale. That's really cool. We've seen some cool use cases of that where our clients have posted that information back into eDelivery, which is our email delivery tool, and use that to build their segmentation and time-based email events. That's really cool. Another one that I've seen work really well is called Rasa. I think it's rasa.io. It's got a few use cases. I've seen it work particularly well for newsletter-based affiliate programs. So I know you wanted to talk about how email can be used with affiliate programs and stuff like that, and email outreach and that kind of stuff. So one of our clients, they're quite a large database of subscribers, of publishers, affiliate managers, those sorts of people, and a few different newsletters. So they had newsletters on financial services offers, newsletters on gaming offers, newsletters on all the different industries, health and all that kind of stuff. The problem they had was when they were designing for mobile, as they were rightly doing, it was very difficult to fit all of that content into a concise manner with a real call to action and a real message in there, rather than just verbal diarrhea on a page, effectively. So what the tool would do is it would amalgamate all of the content that they've written into a targeted newsletter based on the individual subscriber. So based on the industry that they're in, based on what they've said that they're interested in, based on what they know, that based on what offers perform well for them, what offers they've said they're looking for, that kind of stuff. That works really well.
Cool. I love that. And I mean, AI, I'm a little bit hesitant. I don't want AI to replace everybody in the whole human race, but I do want to be able to leverage it to be a little bit cleverer than my competitors. So I'd love to see and hear if there are affiliate managers listening into this, how are you using AI tools to improve the communications with your people? And are you tracking what that's actually doing? Because if you're not, Finexa can help you with that. So let's talk about the elements of a good email messaging funnel, because this is really something that I do get asked a lot, which is, okay, so an affiliate signs up, or customer signs up, they get a welcome email saying, thank you for your purchase, or, welcome to the program. What happens after then? What's the optimum level of drip feeding that communication to welcome, keep them warm and keep them engaged and actually get them to actively purchase or promote? Have through all the years of experience that you have you got a secret formula, and are you willing to share it with people here today?
I wish it was as simple as saying, just send this many emails at this time. My secret formula, in all honesty, is very similar to what I've said already. Track it and then automate it based on what's working. So if you think about what your goal here is, it's high engagement rate, low unsubscribe bounce rate. So that's your framework. Make sure people are taking action with what you're sending them, and they're not telling you that they don't want to hear from you anymore, and they're not taking action effectively. So if you've got a tooling system around that to build logics based on that, and you're not just running blind, you're off to a good start. So absolutely automate that welcome message. The little trick that I mentioned earlier around actually signposting customers along the way in those email sends is a really cool thing that I think people should be doing. So when you're sending that welcome email, thank them for the purchase, tell them that you are going to contact them. People are very savvy with their data these days. I think GDPR here in the UK is certainly something that
hectic.
Taught them their rights, and they taught them what's right and what's wrong. So people know when they put their email address in somewhere, they're going to get contacted, right? So deal with the elephant in the room. Tell them you're going to contact them in that welcome email. Tell them how often it's going to be, ideally, but tell them the value that they're going to get out of it. So don't just send those salesy campaigns in the hope that they're stupid and they're just going to keep listening to your salesy campaigns. Make sure that you've told them, yeah, we're going to keep telling you about our products, but hopefully you like them. That's the point. And if we notice that you stop liking them for whatever reason, we're probably not going to contact you as much, or we'll send you an incentive to try and see if there's a reason that you've stopped engaging with us. Do you need some discount? Do you need some other ideas about some other products? That kind of stuff. So really, I guess what I would say is signpost your consumers and be transparent about what you're talking to them about and why you're contacting them. But treat your loyal customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
on my side, like the effective funnels that I've seen are kind of day 1 when you sign up, day 3, have you got everything that you need? Day 5, this is what's coming up in the month. And then kind of day 15 and day 30, which is normally like the end of the month, is, have you made your first commission yet? So if you haven't, let's get on a call and figure out how we can make that happen. So those are some of the funnels that I think works. Some programs and industries work, and like David said, it's very difficult to give one secret formula that can be applied across everything, because different industries work faster or slower. Like you won't expect your first commission from an affiliate to come in within the first 30 days. It might take 60 or 90 days for them to get their first commission, in which case, what is the funnel that you're building to keep them engaged and loyal? And how are you educating them on what's happening with your product and service to keep them engaged in the actual program and loyal to the brand? Because that is when I see a lot of affiliates drop brands and go and promote other things, is when they're not actually communicated with and they're just being treated like another number. So it is a very sensitive I suppose, funnel to build, and you need to be listening. You need to be listening to what your consumers are saying and telling you in terms of how they want to be signposted as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Everyone talks about hyper-personalization, and you mentioned this earlier, so I'm going to let you do the talking. What does that mean, and what does it really look like? Because I think different people have got different ideas of what hyper-personalization means. So tell us a little bit about how Finexa deals with this.
Sure, yeah. I'm interested to hear what other people think about this. I've always regarded this as just, you see so many personalization campaigns that are just personalizing you, pre-popping your first name. Great, that means this person's going to open this email, or putting your surname.
It's like kind of the bare minimum now, isn't it?
But yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You expect that.
Yeah. So for me, I'm defining that as using the metrics that I mentioned earlier, the behavior-based data, the engagement data, demographic data, psychographics, crazy word, but based on, interests and preferences of that consumer. So how are you able to supplement your database with extra information? And that doesn't have to be captured by the consumer telling you, by the way. It can be ingested by your website feeding data into your list database by saying what pages the customers been on, what their dwell time was on certain pages, and all that kind of stuff. Again, cookie deprecation, all that kind of stuff. Whilst they've made their U-turn, it's if the customer's experiencing your products firsthand, capture the data, put it in your database, and your database is then going to thank you for it later. And then sort of life cycle stage data. So where is the consumer at in their engagement with you? Have they previously purchased? Are they halfway down the funnel? Your point earlier where you say, day 3, when you notice that they haven't done certain things, I would take that one step further, and I would say, make it event-based. So when you notice they haven't done certain things, based on, have they opened certain emails? Have they been on certain pages? Have they clicked certain things? At what point did they stop engaging with you? And build a metric around that to say, okay, it looks like here's the information they either didn't like, or here's the information they felt like they didn't get. So all of those levels of personalization. So I guess a common example of it would be sort of abandoned cart emails, like we mentioned a second ago. They become more common, but I guess, does that mean you'd ideally still want to be taking these to a level where you're not sending lazy emails with a link to the product that you're looking at? So make them time-based. What time does it look like they look at your products, and how frequently is that? If they seem to be someone, it could be a nurse on a night shift. They don't get off until 3 a.m. It looks like it, that's the time that they do most of their shopping. Make it time-based based on that then. make sure that your email is in their inbox when they open their emails at 3 a.m. And then show the product and some alternative recommendations based on other shoppers. So almost sort of audience-based targeting. So we do that kind of stuff in pay-per-click, and we do it on social and things like that, where we're building lookalike audiences, but build lookalike audiences with your email list as well. What did other people that carried out these types of events also buy? What were they also interested in? Other people that stopped engaging after email 5, or what tended to happen next, and what did they need to hear next, and that kind of thing. But base it on your other customers too. Another example, sorry, I know we've only got 2 minutes. This is one that I wanted to talk about, was a really cool campaign we saw previously, which was a customer essentially ingesting weather-based data. So they captured location-based data in their checkout process. They knew where all their customers lived, and they ingested weather-based data from, I think it was from IBM, so they owned the weather company. So they ingested that data, fed it into their database, and when they could, rain's coming, here's a discount code for a shiny new coat. And obviously in the UK, we know how often weather changes. You can imagine how well that campaign performed. So that was just a really cool example of hyper-personalization.
I love that, actually. And I want you guys to think about how you can hyper-personalize your affiliate campaigns too, especially around, the last event that you met an affiliate at. When that event comes around again, can you bring up an old photo of the two of you together and re-engage that conversation, and, say, hey, it's event season again. Which ones are you attending? And actually get your team out to go meet those people again. So it doesn't necessarily just mean name, and it doesn't necessarily just mean, hey, you bought this product. It could be a whole bunch of other things that you can bring into it, but you do need a tool that can help you to manage that, because I'm pretty sure no affiliate tracking solutions do that yet. They don't have that kind of level of hyper-personalization in. So you do need to bring that in with the rest of your database and your customer base to make it really effective. How can we use data and segmentation to improve our email efforts? So you did actually give a really nice example there about the weather-based one, but have you got any others? Have you got any other ones that really increased performance of their communications by using data and segmentation to break up their customer segments a little bit more? Because we do still mass mail everybody the same stuff and assume everybody's interested in the same stuff. But what happens when we get a little bit more niche, when we're capable of actually doing that segmentation and hyper-personalization? What actually happens? Have you seen some really great examples of this?
I've seen a few, yeah. So in the insurance space, some data that they use to sort of, I guess, calculate their premiums for customers is, let's say it's car insurance, for example.
Yeah.
They'll base it on where customers live, where their cars are parked, and average amount of accidents / theft and all that kind of stuff in the local area. So I've seen campaigns whereby they're ingesting that level of data. 2024 comes around, the new data set goes out, insurance premiums are coming out, and basically pushing out a campaign to say, there's been a spike in theft in your area. Make sure you get your quotes in soon to make sure that you're getting the most effective premiums on your car insurance renewal, that level of stuff, or vice versa. Hey, guess what? Last year was a quiet year for crime in your area. Great news, you've moved to an area that has less crime. Make sure that you renew your car insurance, or compare the prices to make sure to see if you can get a cheaper rate, essentially. So using all those sorts of back-end data systems to your advantage, to essentially give you an excuse to contact your customers with tangible information, rather than just saying, hey, fancy some car insurance? That's the alternative, essentially. I guess another thing that we've seen work really well is deliverability-based analytics. So what we use in Finexa is, we see so many companies use one ESP. So it could be Amazon, SendGrid, Brevo, those kinds of platforms to deliver their email. But what we've seen really interesting results with is warming up multiple IPs. I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty of that right now, but essentially getting all of your eggs out of one basket and split testing even the ESPs against each other, and load balancing them against each other. So, for example, what eDelivery can do in Finexa is report on whether Gmail accounts might receive better from your Amazon ESP, or Yahoo from SendGrid, and vice versa. And when you get to a certain scale, those levels of automations are really impressive. When you're approaching, for example, an unsubscribe threshold with one of the certain ESPs, cool, let's split the balance across to one of the ESPs that's seeing a lower unsubscribe rate, and vice versa. So all of those little tricks that, hopefully everyone gets to a point where they've got enough scalability and enough volume that they're sending, that those levels of little, 0.5%, 1% performance improvement against your competitors is really what allows you to have that edge.
It does indeed. One thing that I did want to say as well is about the metric data that you were mentioning. A great way for affiliate managers to actually reactivate inactive affiliates is to look when last they actually received a commission, and then build a drip feed funnel around that and reactivate them again. And we've actually done this in our agency, and we've seen upwards of a 20 to 30% reactivation rate just because we reminded an affiliate that they haven't earned commission for a while on a product. So definitely have a look at how you can use the data that's available to you to segment your referring partner base, and use the same mechanics that David's talking about to you guys now to actually reactivate your program. So those are really great examples. What are the best ways to capture and convert new affiliates with email? Because I tell you, David, I see a lot of cold call spam, a lot. What are the best ways, do you think, we could be using email to actually engage partners and bring them on board? I like the idea of using data, like actually having data in that email and giving data to that affiliate, letting them know where they're perhaps missing an opportunity. That's often the way that we use, outreach and data together to bring affiliates into programs. But what are some of the ideas that you have?
Yeah, I've kind of broken this down into two areas of how can you find more affiliates, I suppose, and use email to engage them in outreach, but then also once they are engaged, what information are you giving them? So I'll answer the latter first, I suppose, in what we've seen work particularly well. Yeah, like you said, data. So tell them what's hot right now. What are the trends? What's performing particularly well? Which offer's got the best EPC in the last 2 weeks? Make them feel like they're missing out essentially by not running a certain offer. Make it targeted. So make sure that those offers that you're talking about are based on what their audience is. So if they're a publisher that has audience, finance-based audience, there could be a mortgage broker, there could be something like that. Make sure the offers that you're offering them are based on that, not based on gambling and irrelevant areas. So that again feeds back to your effective segmentation. But yeah, if you first of all if you've got that data to hand, you've already got a massive advantage, because there's so many platforms that just don't simply have that data and can't even communicate that. Then taking it to the next level, which is automating those email pushes to make sure that you're once a fortnight, once a month, whatever you want to make it push out those sort of trend-based data. And then in terms of, I guess, finding more affiliates, there's a cool tool called Afterstash. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Essentially, you can when you're building a new campaign, you can feed that Afterstash your campaign information. So who you are, what the campaign is, who the audience are, what the promotion channels are. Is it going to be YouTube? Is it email in this case, that kind of thing? And it will use AI again to spit out relevant partners and affiliates for that. So, but make sure you take it a step further. Feed that into Apollo, Cognism, and other supplemental platforms to actually pull relevant contact data. Don't just feed them into a list and mass send a cold spam email like
segment
it, and then go old school. See if you know any of them. If for example I run a campaign and I see that Leanne's in that list, I'm not going to send you a cold email. A bit weird if I sent you a cold email and you say screams the fact that I've not done my due diligence to a certain extent. So clean the list, make sure it looks what you want and how you want, and go from there.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So how can we use email to gain more traction with our affiliate outreach, like offers and promotions? Like, do you think it's good to reach out to affiliates? Because I tell you, I get these daily. Hi, my name is so-and-so from this affiliate program, and we'd like to offer you 30%, 50%, whatever it is that you're offering me. It just kind of doesn't resonate with me anymore. And I don't know if that's just me or if that's a growing trend, but like, I don't want to know what I can get. I want to know, why should I promote you first?
Yeah. I mean, I would always feed it back to useful knowledge. So someone like yourself, you've got so much industry knowledge and tips and tricks to give. Make it information based first of all. Why should this affiliate be engaging with me?
Yeah.
Make it because you know more. You're wise. You've got industry experience. You've got the best. Everyone's got the best offers under the sun. They've got the best payouts under the sun. Anyone.
It's hard to compete on price.
Hard to compete on price, and actually, the best network shouldn't be competing on price. They should be price should be a thing, absolutely, but it should be value based on what you're going to get out of it. I'm wise. I've done this 20 years. If you want to call this a partnership and you want to be running business with me for the next 20 years, I'm the person that you want to be doing that with. So make it qualify it based on the information that you can put in there, the tips and tricks, newsletters like we mentioned a second ago, little industry tips and tricks that aren't just salesy, aren't just, hey, run my offer, hey, whatever. You can always supplement that with your other offer-based information in there as well, like you mentioned earlier. I think it's always important to make sure that you edge your bets a little bit to get them engaged, but ultimately keep those hot right now offers in the email as well, and that kind of thing, or a call to action in there. If you found this interesting, click here to receive an email for the latest offers that we're running. Something as simple as that, and automate
to
that
give
as well.
before you ask. That's my favorite thing. And normally they say you need to give 3 times before you ask. So a little bit of industry insight, what trends that you're seeing, hot products that are flying off your shelves, whatever it is, stuff like that. Affiliates sometimes don't have time to actually go and find out for themselves across the multiple brands that they're promoting. So if you can pop that into their inbox timely and relevantly, ahead of like major peak periods, then all of a sudden you start to become their new best friend affiliate manager. So I love that idea, and I love those points that you've brought forward. So let's talk a little bit about what Finex's Performance Marketing Suite can do to help with all of the stuff that you've spoken about today. And I have been writing down many points while you've been talking, because I am going to summarize it at the end. But what are, like, end to end, what does Finexa actually offer, and what can people do with the tool?
Sure. So I guess, like I mentioned earlier, there's so much to Finexa. The elevator pitch part is quite difficult because there's always something that someone can use Finexa for. And the way we always think of it is we don't try and be a one-stop shop for everything. We try and solve a few problems for everyone, basically. Yeah. So not everyone has to use the whole suite. It's a suite-based system, but it's pay as you go. You only pay for what you're using, essentially. So just because you're only using the click tracking or the web lead tracking or the call tracking, doesn't mean that you're you're paying for all the other services as well that are going unused, but they're there to solve future problems. One thing that we've seen an awful lot of is a client will join us with 2 or 3 problems to solve. Could be their email automation, it could be their segmentation, it could be their web lead tracking, that problem. But in 6 months' time, they've got another problem. They've got a new campaign that they're running, a new offer, a new website, a new service, and they just can't work out how to do something. Well, the odds of us having something that can solve that problem are massively high. There's so many tools out there that are very niche, absolutely, and that's great. But in 6 months' time, when the next problem comes along, they need another tool. They need to use another system. And then it's a nightmare. Then you've got 7 different systems, and it just becomes a bit of a nightmare.
It is, actually, because there aren't many systems that do everything all in one. Mm-hmm. And, if you can use 2 instead of 6, it's still a leap better and time consuming and, less time consuming and more resource efficient. But I think, right now, the CRM portion of affiliate tracking platforms doesn't really exist. So it's quite handy that this is all in one, and you can actually use what you need as and when you need it. Now, if you want to find out more about Finexa, we are going to give you a nice little download at the end, and you can obviously go to their website as well and find out more about all the tools that they give you. But what are the 3 tips that you want to give people to crush email outreach today? Because I think that is probably still one of the biggest things that we have to overcome, is actually getting that engagement and getting those partners into your program so they can refer more customers to you. So 3 tips from today that you want to summarize.
Yeah, so I guess a little bit repetitive to some of the things I said earlier, but to summarize it, and you're better at this than me, so I'll confess that. You might have another go at this afterwards, but I would say build your objectives. Start off with what's success, who are you targeting, do you have the data to achieve it? Don't start until you've got that. Second point would be track and analyze. Make sure that based on those metrics, you can actually then go away and track it. You're not just going to build the best campaign in the world, press send, and then you don't really know if you've achieved what you were trying to achieve. And then thirdly, automate it. So ultimately, scale is everyone's goal, right? No one goes into a campaign going, okay, hopefully I get 20 people to use this. No, the goal is I take this somewhere big, ultimately. So assume that the campaign is going to get there if you've done those first 2 points properly. And assume that it's going to get so big that you don't want to be sat there watching it every minute of every day, monitoring and tweaking it along the way. So use a tool that's going to automate the data validation, the cleaning, segmentation, the A/B testing, and the deliverability analysis that I spoke about earlier, to mean that you can really be the value add. You're there to be the brains behind it ultimately. If you're there pressing refresh and clicking buttons and doing, that's really not what you're there for. You're there for the big ideas. So use something that's going to free your time up to make sure that you can come up with the next campaign.
Okay, love it. Short and sweet. I'm going to do a recap now because I have been taking notes while we were going through. The first thing is customer segmentation or affiliate segmentation. Break up your affiliate types and actually send content that's relevant to them. The second thing I loved about what you said was signposting. Like, tell them how you're going to be communicating with them after day one when they've joined the program. Set that expectation so that you don't hit the bigger unsubscribes when you start over promoting things or sending wrong things to wrong segment customers. That just irritates them and makes them want to leave. Use some of the tools. So the 3 tools that you mentioned was Rasa.io, 7 Cents, and Appistash, and there are hundreds of tools. I have a Mofo tool list, and I'm going to probably add these onto them. So thank you very much for contributing to that. If you want to get the Mofo tools list, you can DM me as well, and I'll send that out to you. What is hyper-personalization? It's not just putting the first name at the top of the email. It goes a little bit deeper than that, and it means you have to dig into your data to actually understand how to leverage it and use it to then do the segmentation that David was talking about at the start. Content relevancy, so don't send everybody everything. Send the right people the right things, and you'll get better results with your emails. And then think about the frequency, and David mentioned a couple of good drip feed campaigns that you can do to ask for more information and also help with that signposting journey. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring back around to the top really is optimize your emails for mobile, because I receive a lot of emails and I check a lot of emails on my mobile, and many of them get deleted without being read because they're not optimized. Make sure that that subject line is super, super, super succinct and tells you exactly what it is that that email is and makes you want to open. So get that hook right. Now, we have taken up more than an hour of your time nearly, but we want to thank you for listening. Finexa has put together an essential guide to email deliverability to scale your outreach without limits. It is an awesome self-guided tour, almost like a mini ebook. You can go and download it from Finexa's website. We will put a link to this in the webinar replay and on YouTube as well. We will also send it to you in the email of the replay. So do not worry if you don't get to download it right now today. It will all be sent back to you. You can also take a self-guided tour of their platform, which is super awesome. I did it just before I got on this webinar. Have a look or give them a call or send them an email. All of their details are up on screen. David, it has been an absolute pleasure to spend an hour talking to you about email marketing. We are going to see you live up on stage at our Elevate Summit in just a few short weeks in September in London. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there too, where we're going to go a little bit deeper into lead generation and performance marketing, helping SMEs to grow their businesses and get ahead of what's coming and being thrown at us in 2025 to navigate. It has been a pleasure to have you on this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, we didn't have even time to ask for questions, but if you want to send your questions, then you can DM them to me and I'll pass them on to David and we'll share them out in the blog transcribe on our website and in our newsletter as well. So if you have questions, you can send them in to us and we will get them answered. It has been a pleasure to be live streaming to you today, talking about email marketing, which hopefully I'm going to see a resurgence of good practices after this webinar. And thank you so much for sharing those practices with us today, David.
Thanks very much, Leanne. I enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone.